Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Benny Loves You. Yes, he does. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Cast and crew information down below, and as usual, the IMDb plot to start off with here. Jack, a man desperate to improve his life, throws away his beloved childhood plush, Benny. It's a move that has disastrous consequences when Benny springs to life with deadly intentions. Um, yeah, these dolls always coming back for revenge and to kill, and Chucky's coming back now and everything. You can't get rid of him. Uh, just terrible. Um, anyway, Benny Loves You. You know, I actually just watched this a little while ago, so this is probably the first time I've actually done a review so close to watching the movie. Um, been wanting to see this one for a while, so I'm glad I finally got it under my belt here, and just wow, I guess I won't save too much for. I was surprised for you. I really enjoyed it. That was a good time. Um, let's see. Uh, the beginning was, we'll start. Let's just start from the beginning. The beginning scene was fun. You have a mom and a little girl. Um, the little girl's being a brat and being very spoiled, and she wants, you know how it goes with toys. It's almost whatever's in season or whatever's the most popular, and you have one toy for a while, and then that kind of fades away, and then you need the next best toy, and then that kind of goes away. Um, you've seen some of these doll movies. I mean, Chucky's like that. Chucky was the next doll that was up, and that's what Andy wanted. Um, so, you have the little girl here. She's kind of at the next phase there, and she's being all spoiled, and the mom's basically had it with her, and she then goes to sleep, and the doll she kind of wanted to put away is coming back for revenge, and then as it continues to kind of haunt her, you have a mom that's really pissed off, and the mom comes in and it's just like had it with her on top of it. Um, and yeah, let's just say both of them end up pretty doomed here at the hands of this doll. Um, and then we kind of fast forward and start learning about what is his name again, Jack, and Jack. We're kind of gonna get a brief kind of history of him growing up, and maybe some of the toy he had, and you're gonna see Benny kind of there, and um, you're gonna see kind of how his parents kind of cradled him, and he is they kind of then introduce him, and he's in his mid 30s, and they're kind of just kind of collaging things together here to kind of introduce him and his kind of life story and as fast as they can. There's I'll talk about it more in a minute, but there's a interesting way they kind of tell the story here. Um, but as they're telling this, they kind of do it in a comedic way, and you eventually find out, he is in his mid 30s, and he's still living with his parents at the time. And as the story's kind of getting told, his parents like to give him birthday parties similar to that of when he was much younger, uh, but still at his age in the mid 30s there. I think he might be 33 or 34 when we kind of get introduced to him there, and in a little bit of an unexpected hilarious moment as this is going on, we see his parents kind of die while trying to give him a birthday party, um, which it's bizarre in itself, um, and just kind of is very random and so forth. In turn, that kind of leads to house being given to him, but he quickly finds out that, hey, you're going to need to be paying for this house, and his job Uh, he's got a job, but it's not quite gonna give him enough money to kind of maintain this house. So he's basically has a limited time to kind of figure that out and how he's gonna pay for the house in order to stay in the house. Um, he does work um, in a company that deals with toys and so forth. So you kind of had that aspect going on here, and I guess he's trying to be up for a promotion with one or two other individuals um, as well, and the promotion would certainly help him. Um, but they kind of paint another individual very interestingly. Um, with a play on his name Richard, and yeah, you're gonna see him, and he's gonna be he's one of those characters that yeah you're gonna know that he's gonna die, you're gonna want him to die, and you'll be satisfied no matter what happens eventually. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of the situation Jack's in, and it only becomes more interesting when Benny reappears, and Benny springs back into his life because Benny is now alive. Um, Benny Benny loves Jack, and the problem here is that he's not really going to like anybody else who loves Jack, and yeah. Um, so that's kind of where this kind of story picks up and goes. Um, at first Jack is now obviously not going to know what Benny is doing and killing kind of the people that are around him, um, but eventually he is, and I think then it kind of just follows, that similar kind of thing where, the guy tries to deal with the situation the best he can and kind of keep it as a secret, and he's gonna try to maintain his house and live there and try to get the job and everything like that, and kind of pretend that what Benny is doing is not really happening, or not, do his best to kind of rid him of the situation of Benny, and then things are just gonna get worse and worse to the point where, yeah, he's gonna have to deal with Benny one way or the other. Um, and along the way, as you also might expect, there's obviously going to be another woman in the way, and just, there's not a lot, they kind of set up a situation we might be familiar with, but just even the way they kind of come together is not the way you might think, and not in any traditional manner. Um, there's a lot of comedy. This is obviously a horror comedy, so there is um, just a lot to laugh at, and the relationships between certain people, and the certain characters, and the way they act. Um, I'm not gonna, a horror comedy, whatever it is, if it's a newer movie. Um, I'm not gonna give away everything and spoil everything. You know, there is other things going on. I'll leave that because it was a little surprise to me. Um, but let's just say I guess let's tackle Benny himself. Oh, well, I mentioned that they. Let me do this first. I mentioned they have an interesting way of doing the story, and they did have an interesting filming technique, and I guess that's how a lot of it went early on. I think as it goes and gets later into the film, it isn't so much, but you're definitely going to notice a certain way that they're kind of filming it here, and it's kind of like tell a little bit of a story, kind of pause, and then kind of jump to something else or take you somewhere else, or kind of make you pause and just in the moment and wait for whatever's going to respond next, and kind of do that with some sound effects and so forth. So you're not just watching a normal screen time or a normal scene play out. Um, you're gonna notice the kind of the pause or the break, and the music that kind of goes along with that, and kind of setting up that separation there. But I does still kind of play out as the movie goes on, but it's not as noticeable as the movie goes on. And I don't know why they did that. I don't know the reasoning behind that. Um, I don't know. Maybe in a way, kind of adds a little to the comedy of it, especially early on when they're really trying to be very comedic, and then maybe it's not as needed when the horror kind of is built up towards the end. I don't know. Regardless of that, Benny. Let's talk about him. Um, he's not the most imaginative, creature out there. He's got the big bubbly eyes, and he's like reddish pink or red, or depending on what you want to call it. And he's just kind of bouncing around there, and they I might not be the expert on it. There's obviously some CGI in this movie, especially with some of the bloodier scenes and bloody moments. Um, they, I don't know the budget, I don't know the money here, and so forth. So I do think they in a way they take some liberties and kind of just let the audience use your imagination to um, kind of maybe fill in the gaps there in a way to kind of say it is to kind of maybe not expect to be critiqued too hard because maybe some of the times it doesn't, as Benny's like kind of bouncing around scenes, maybe it's meant for him to be kind of, he is kind of a bunny-ish kind of character, so maybe it's meant for him to kind of bounce around a little bit, but I think it's a little bit funny looking because you can kind of clearly tell he's not really on the floor, he's more floating around. um, but again, this being horror comedy or whatever, I'm not gonna critique it hard. I'm gonna let it go. I just enjoyed it regardless. If someone who really wants to take a hard look at that and complain, I mean, you can do so. And I'm sure if you're a super serious critic who maybe doesn't do many horror movies, maybe you won't like that and you'd be like marking it off for that. But it was fine with me. I'm not the biggest CGI fan. I'm always lean towards the practical, but I can completely see here why they did certain things that way. And again, I don't know what kind of budget they're working with here. Um, I still went with it just because I think you know Benny kind of goes around and in turn he's kind of laughing in one way and then he's saying, "I love Benny loves you." Are basically the two biggest things that he's ever gonna say. Is he's either got this weird little laugh or he says Benny loves you, and as he's kind of bouncing around here and doing his thing, I don't really think he says much more than that. So in a weird way, I think as he says Benny loves you, I think you're gonna just love Benny as this goes on. I think that might be why you may be so forgiving of maybe things like the CGI in it and the way he kind of moves at times and certain ways they pull things off. Um, it is hard. It's hard when you're working with a puppet and so forth to make things like happen like that. And like I said, I don't know anything about who put this together and their experiences and so forth. So I'm while I might criticize it in other cases, and something like Chucky, which I know is on a much bigger budget and so forth, um, and done in a completely different way, I might look to criticize tougher there, but I'm gonna let them have their liberty here in what they did. Um, it is bloody, Benny. There's one scene where he's just kind of looking at, he gets put in a room and he's kind of looking at tools that he could use, and it's just hilarious to see, his reaction, and he's just kind of laughing at, what he can use, and then he kind of comes across something he doesn't really want to use, and he's kind of like, eh. And there's a scene where uh, he gets locked in a room with a lot of people, and you are going to see some CGI here and some liberties with the blood splattering and whatever. But it's a good old time because he basically slaughters them all. And me, I'm in for the blood and guts. I'm a sucker for it, and maybe that's another reason why I just let it go here, let it slide. But yeah, he goes to town, he has a fun time. It's hard to imagine that a little creature doll here is doing all this, but again, we've seen it in many other doll movies, and he goes to town on these bunch of people. I think kind of ending scene here, which ultimately happens to Benny, in a way is utter ridiculousness, and but kind of fits with what is happening here. Um, it kind of fits in the comedy of what is going on here. In a way, it does kind of end in a way. I don't think it doesn't spoil anything like that, but it does maybe leave the door open for another movie. I would love to see it. I um, see what they do, see what happens, um, see what they come up with. Like I said, I'm leaving certain things out because I didn't. I think they would, I want to leave something to the surprise of you, and I don't want to ruin it. I didn't necessarily see, not that they're big twists or anything, but just certain things that happened in the movie that I didn't foresee coming. Obviously, if you really think about a movie like this, you could see happening, but it's not what I expected to see. And again, it's not because it's a twist or anything like that. It's just how the certain things that happen. But yeah, it was just it's just one of these movies. I think like I did the review of Sky Sharks, and as ridiculous as that seemed, and it was full of CGI. I still enjoyed it for what they put forth and the ridiculousness of it. And even though that really wasn't a comedy, it did have some bloody moments and so forth, and obviously this does too. So sometimes you just like something and kind of maybe put away your tough reviewer hat or whatever your tough critic hat, and you kind of let certain things go and enjoy it for what it is, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to give this 4 pools of blood, and that's out of 5. Benny loves you. I love Benny. Benny can come and hang out with me as long as he behaves and doesn't hurt anybody else, which is unlikely, so maybe he can't. Certainly can come and hang out with my buddy Dexter. But yeah, I was laughing at the iPad as I was watching this, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Good stuff all around. Kind of thinking of some movies I've really enjoyed this year. Was just unusual circumstances, unusual characters, or things going on here, like Psycho Gorman. Even though I saw it last year, I know a lot of talk of it. It's been this year because everybody got to see it. As Fried Berry. And obviously now Benny Loves You, and it was not a funny movie, but a more serious movie. Lots of blood and guts with Skull, The Mask that came out on Shudder recently. Just movies that either had certain individuals or characters and whatever that was just nice and bloody and so forth, or just was a strange circumstance. I don't know. You just got a little bit of bonus there in case you haven't read any other reviews or seen anything else. Those are just some other movies that I liked recently. Or even one from earlier on. I actually saw Psycho Gorman a while back as well. So, regardless, getting off point. 4 pools of blood for Benny. Horror's Glory Reviews. Blogspot.com is where you can find more of these reviews, written reviews. Post all the video reviews there as well. But if you're just into the video reviews, you can just subscribe to the channel. And but if you want some written reviews, please check them out there as well. Twitter, Facebook down below. Talk horror there. Talk about this movie, other movies, whatever you want. If you have something for me to review, obviously feel free in the comment section to comment on this review, this movie, or if you're just looking to reach me, you can do it there as well. I fully expect to watch Benny at least one more time at some point and get some more further enjoyment, because I'm sure I probably missed a thing or two, even though I was thoroughly enjoying it. So, with that, I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.